during all this, July 4th, thank you, July 4th, 1976, we humans landed a spacecraft on the planet Mars. This was Viking. Figured it was like the Viking explorers who went to this cold, dry place to set up camp. It's not clear why they would stay, but on North America. But these guys, we landed a spacecraft on Mars, and the thing that I find so striking about all of these pictures is it's a place. When you look out there on the Marsscape, if you were dressed properly, you could walk around. You know, I mean, you'd have to. It's like a camping trip. You want to take water, some food, which I guess in this case would be tang. And you also, very important, you have to take something to breathe, because they don't have anything. They're already for us to breathe. But there's a cool little story associated with this. This picture went around the world. New York Times, Papua New Guinea Gazette, UC College, which was in business, right, 1965. What's the paper? I stumped them. Yeah, okay. What is it? The Scribe. Yes, it was on, I'm sure it was on the cover of the Scribe, for crying out loud. There's a problem, and these people noticed it by looking at the shadows. Oh, doggone it. I think I double skipped. Oh, yes. Yes, okay, we're going to try to go backwards. Well, we've left Mars. Okay, wait, we're going to go back. Okay, but don't stop here. Nothing screwing up. So, the sky on Mars is not blue. And apparently they realized this sort of the next day, Thursday afternoon. And this discussion was, what do you mean it's not blue? It's a planet. And then the other guy at Jet Propulsion Lab says, but it's a different planet. So apparently by looking at the shadows, they noticed that the shadows looked wrong. The shadows were too blue. And that's when it occurred to them that they had done something with the electronics to mess up the color of the sky. And let me just tell you, are there any geologists here? The color of the sky is quite significant, because geologists, the first thing they want to know was the color of the rock. And by the way, geologists with the rocks, I guess if you know any of them, they're just walking around like this. You go to the dorm room or whatever, another rock, Steve, that's great. This one's different. Oh, this rock, see, this color, this is looks the same to me. No, look. Anyway, you can see this color from the Earth. Mars is the red planet because it's covered with iron oxide, with rust. And you can see it from here. What color is the sky? The sky is what? Orange? Like taupe? Ecru? Eggshell? Yes. You know where they sell women's stockings? It's in the upper right. I don't wear women's stockings. I am a huge fan. So now, this is a Mars, and the color had a big effect on my life. After I was graduated from school, and by some sort of clerical error, and then I got a job. So this part of our story, the influence on me, and the reason I am here talking to you, many of you apparently are fans of the show. Starts with a place called Wake Island, which is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I mean, it is in Pacific Ocean nowhere. You have to be a pretty good navigator to find anything. And it was discovered, of course, the Polynesians would go by there, oh, there's nothing going on, I'm not stopping. But a British captain named Wake got it named after. Anyway, this is historically significant to people not really at my age or your age, but my father. So, Wake Island is of great interest if you were in a plane or a ship and you want a place to pull over, to stop. So my father took this job. He was in law school. Let's try it. I don't think this one. This is about how Lake Island looked a few weeks ago, and about this much in 1941, because my father was in law school, and he didn't like it. It's weird, not him. But he never heard of it. All those movies written about how much fun law school is. Most lawyers have such a great time and always talking about what the party is. No, so he didn't like it. So he took a job with the Navy building this airstrip on Lake Island in 1941. And he said it was a great summer job. He worked outside all summer. If it rained, they just stayed there. And he was the college kid, so he was the quartermaster. He was in charge of keeping the books, the accounting, and he was responsible for refueling these sorts of seaplanes. This is a Boeing Clipper. An interesting thing, no Boeing Clipper airplane made it all the way through World War II. There's pieces of them, but they were a little bit fragile. I think landing on the ocean and pounding and flying across is hard on aircraft. And so, anyway, this picture is from a book written by the naval commander who came to Wake later, Spiv Cunningham. As near as anybody can tell, that's my dad right there. It's a picture of my dad. He's not there. Anyway, you had his shirt off all summer, swimming around, fishing, not bad. But for those of you who have a reasonable knowledge of history of the world in recent times, on December 7th, 1941, Lake Island was bombed, along with Pearl Harbor and other Pacific Ocean targets, considered strategically important by the Japanese Navy, well, by everyone. So this is a newspaper my father kept, or my grandmother, my father's mother kept. It's the Evening Star, which is the afternoon paper back when cities had two newspapers, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And the world's ended. I mean, the world kind of ended. On December 8th, everybody realizes that Japanese Navy is a huge strategic force, and they've got a plan. And they did a surprise attack, and it was very successful. You all lived through 9/11. It was like that times about 50, from what I can tell, because everybody knew the world was going to be involved. People were already fighting in Europe. People in the U.S. were already fighting in Europe. And they realized that everybody was going to get sucked into this crazy conflict. And by the way, it was not cheap to get this information. This paper was 3 cents. Chunk of change. And look, I just want to disabuse you of what the grown-ups might tell you. The old people, back when I was young, we took the holidays seriously. It wasn't all this commercialism. No, not like these kids that, oh, take a look. Same newspaper, 14 shopping days till Christmas. It is about war bonds, about supporting the government, but it is kind of a charming thing. It goes way back, that's all I'm saying, commercialization of the holidays. Not that that's bad, I'm just saying. Just don't let them give you an earful when we have facts. So, these people on Lake Island, 1,300 guys, just had kind of disappeared. There was no communication, there was no radios, no Twitter, no Facebook, no texting. What did they do all day? So nobody knew what happened to them. They fought back for 2 weeks. They shot down at least 2 Japanese airplanes every day for 2 weeks. They sank a Japanese ship full of soldiers, and then eventually the Japanese Navy showed up with just a flotilla of 7 ships, captured everybody. My dad wrote in his diary, it was Christmas Eve, saddest day of his life. And they were taken to the mainland of China. That's where Japanese military controlled quite a bit of, especially eastern China. So my mother, meanwhile, his college sweetheart, my grandfather wouldn't let them get married until she was graduated from college, but she happened to be graduated in the spring of 1942. And these are my ancestors. My mom was recruited by the U.S. Navy. She went to a small school in Baltimore, Maryland called Goucher College. Back when they had such things, it was the sister school to Johns Hopkins. And so these 12 women were recruited. The president, Goucher, was the first cousin of the Secretary of War, Stimson. It was not the Secretary of Defense back then, Secretary of War, because that's what they did. They didn't just call it defense, they called it war. That was what it was about. That's all changed. Anyway, this is a picture from it's in the National Cryptologic Museum, for those of you real students. Anyway, with all due respect to the other women that were recruited in our Navy uniform serving our country, with all due respect to the other gals, really, who's got the best legs? So there's my mom. That's a picture of my mom. So that's what she did during the war. She worked in this famous or infamous thing, while my dad was in a prisoner of war camp, mostly in China. So the Japanese military confiscated all their watches and jewelry, and they had no way, no conventional way, no modern way